What's up, guys? Mike Marlinski here with the Metal Webzine. This is going to be episode 17 of All the Metal Podcast. Tonight we're discussing Van Halen. Once again, going to have Greg DiPasquale on the line. We'll get him a call in just a minute. Greg's with the Moravia, New York band Fatal Curse. Good heavy metal band. They released an album fairly recently called Breaking the Trance. That's worth your fucking attention. He used to be in this band, Sepultura, like killer Buffalo death metal band. They're still around. Greg's been in a bunch of bands. I'll leave all of Greg's information in the description. Greg's been around. And he's played a bunch of different styles. And he's one of my favorite people to talk to on these things, just because when we pick a band, it's always a great conversation. So if you've been following along with these. Keep right on rolling. I don't know. I never know who we're doing next. I have no idea who we're doing next week. We've done Megadeth. We've done Winger. We've done Iron Maiden. Most recently, tonight's going to be Van Halen. Should be a fun talk. Let's give Greg a call. Okay, so we were just talking about Eruption. So, and you had mentioned that when you were younger, you bought a tab book.
I got it for Christmas, I believe. I got it for Christmas, I think, in maybe 96 or 97.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And how much of, how far did you get in learning Eruption?
Not very far. You know, like a lot of people, I had a go at the tap run, because that's really that's the part of that song.
Right.
And that's the one that I really think turned, guitarists and the world of guitar playing really on its ear. It really kind of turned it upside down.
Right. Sure.
So yeah, I've had a go at the tap run. I think a lot of people probably have. That's the part that everyone goes to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had a crack at the tap run, but really not much else of it.
Yeah, I think that
again, I was so young that it was all so intimidating for me, and I just a big part of my I guess my learning curve was really just beating myself up.
Oh yeah.
Guitarist. Like, just really just it's probably not very healthy, but just really just constantly being dissatisfied with what my capabilities were at that time. And really just always not being down on it, because I was never ever I'm never dissatisfied. I always find something to be satisfied with. I don't believe, just in general though, just never really being fully satisfied with my capabilities.
Sure.
That really led to me, consistently in different levels of different incremental levels of improvement over the last, almost 30 years now. I guess I've been playing for about 27 years. So.
Oh wow, yeah. It has been that long, I suppose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, well, that influential tap run is, I guess, connected to the next question or talking point because I ended up collecting three guest questions or three guest talking points, whatever you want to call it, from three different people. So the first one is from Scott Ketch, and he said Van Halen just influenced so many people to pick up the instrument, myself included. When I was a kid and heard Eruption, that was it. I knew I wanted to play guitar. It was truly life changing. As a topic, maybe just how many of today's giants in guitar playing got that way after hearing Van Halen. And just the thought brings positive vibes in my brain that this 22-year-old virtuoso literally changed the game forever. So I guess what Scott's asking is like what greats that you know of, like big guitar gods of the modern era, like do you feel or have said were directly influenced by Van Halen?
All of them.
All of them, right?
I mean, in my opinion, yeah, all of them. I mean, if you think about it, even if you're going to go from, a generational thing. All right, so we'll say Eddie is the ground floor of the shred movement. There was obviously aggressive, to a degree, some type of shred prior to Eddie. He didn't invent shred, but you did have guys like, in the rock field, you had guys like Richie Blackmore. You had guys who had that kind of neoclassical kind of thing. Louis John Roth of the Scorpions comes to mind as well too. But as far as really taking it to the next level, it's Eddie. And if you're going to look at who directly comes after him, they're all just progressively people who just would influence generation after the next generation after the next generation. All right, so you got Eddie, and then after Eddie, you have guys like, Randy Rhoads and George Lynch and, Joe Satriani and Steve Vai and, even Yngwie, he's definitely a different type of player from Eddie. He's more of the European, which, Eddie's European as well too, but Yngwie is more of like the neoclassical kind of thing, which is probably more in line of like the Richie Blackmore, side of thing. But, Yngwie has some tapping. No one really pushed tapping to the extreme like that before Eddie did.
Right.
And really, if you think, every guitar player now who has like an element of shred in their repertoire or in like, the way they approach the instrument, I mean, Eddie is a pillar of that,
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
I remember Trey, even if you're going to go to a different type of guitar playing, Trey Azektoth from Morbid Angel on the Domination record. I think it was, I don't know what song. I think it might have been the song Where the Slime Live. I think in the liner notes of the Domination record, he said he dedicated his solo in that song to Eddie Van Halen because it was so influenced by, his lead playing that he just really threw all his Eddieisms, into that song.
Sure.
So he really has had an influence, on probably everyone. And in other ways, too. Like he, you know, I don't know. I mean, there was guys who tuned down, like Tony Iommi, he tuned down before Eddie did. But I'm trying to think of rock or metal players who did drop D tuning, where they just drop the tuning of the
Sure.
low string
Sure.
to D. I don't know if I can't say no one did that before Eddie, but I don't know of anyone who did it before Eddie on Unchained, on the
Yes.
Fair Warning album.
Yes.
And so he had an influence there, because obviously how many bands have had drop D tuning?
Right.
I mean, that's a thing. And as far as I know, I mean, I think if he didn't pioneer it or invent it, which I'm sure he didn't invent it, but he definitely popularized it.
Drop D, yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah, like I said, Tony Iommi, he would tune down everything. Like stuff like Children of the Grave, and he was tuned down to C sharp, but that wasn't like a drop tuning as far as like just the one string. He tuned down. He was tuned down to C sharp standard.
Yeah, he tuned everything down, right?
That was just a D tune across the board. And in the rock years, I know Van Halen was just naturally tuned down a half step. But as far as just dropping that low string a whole step, I don't know of anyone who did that before Eddie.
Yep.
Right
on.
So that's another. I mean, and then you're talking about a whole other avenue right there, because everything else I mentioned before that was primarily lead based, as far as like a caliber of technicality, in playing lead guitar, But then you look at it from the perspective, he also pioneered or innovated or popularized drop tuning. Well, that's more of a rhythmic thing.
Yes.
So he's kind of had his fingerprints on both lead guitar and
rhythm guitar. Just guitar in general.
Or just exactly. Guitar in general. I can't think of a more influential guitarist in our time.
Right on.
Than him.
Yep. Okay, so next one comes from Mike Dietz. And Dietz said, he wants to know where you rate the Sammy era records specifically.
Okay, well, we'll take that from the beginning then. 5150, it's definitely a change of pace from the record before it, although you can connect the two. They started going towards the initial Sammy era sound with songs like Jump and I'll Wait. Songs like Jump and I'll Wait probably could have been on the first two Sammy records, 5150 and OU812. 5150, I think, is a really good record. I don't think it's aged very well, just because of, if anything, just the production and the synthesizer.
Yeah.
I mean, the synthesizer that Eddie was using at that point was, it's very dated sounding.
Yes.
So, and because it's so dated sounding, I don't think it's aged well. But 5150 is a very good record. That's a record I still dig. Even though they, did they get quote unquote, softer? Yeah, they did. They did, for sure, in some ways. But there's also some ripping songs on 5150, like Get Up. I mean, that's a super, for Van Halen, that's an intense song. That's pretty heavy, So, 5150 is a solid record. OU812, that's a record that really hasn't stuck with me too much. Um, the ballad "When It's Love" is really, really great. That's a classic song, but that's really the only song on that record that really sticks with me.
Right.
You know, it's not a terrible record, but it's just not really anything that stuck with me beyond that song. For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, I think that is the best, quote, Van Hagar era album. That's probably their heaviest, maybe their most aggressive. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great record for sure. You know, you got Pound Cake, and obviously Right Now is one of those songs that kind of transcends genre, transcends times. It was the theme song for Crystal Pepsi when it debuted, and it's a song that is it's a transcending song, and it's a great record. I enjoy the record, and it's also really cool when you're 11 and the album title essentially means fuck.
Yeah.
For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge.
Right.
Check the acronym there. So
Oh yeah, for
that's
sure.
pretty neat when you're a kid too. Balance. That record is okay. After I hadn't listened to it in a while, but there's it's not as across the board rocking as For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge is.
Sure.
But it's definitely got some songs on there that are Van Halen classics. Feeling, that song is great. That's like an epic song. I listened to that today for the first time in a really long time, and I forgot how much I love that song. So the Van Hagar era is always going to be looked at derisively and lesser than, but and to be fair, in my opinion, it is lesser than the Dave era.
Sure.
But for me, in my opinion, it's much more endearing than given credit. It's much better than given credit. And again, maybe that's a product of me being the age I am and when I got into the band.
Right.
Maybe it would be different for me if, I was born 10 years earlier and, I grew up with the Dave era, in real time as it was happening. Maybe it would be different. But again, like Maiden, I caught all that stuff, in retrospect, in the rear view. I kind of caught up to it. So it definitely deserves respect, for sure. Not all of it has stuck with me. But, again, like I said, better than given credit for. But it does lack the fun and really that kind of reckless abandon that they had in the first era with Dave, for sure.
Yeah.
They're definitely much more subdued records. But also, they were older.
Sure.
Yeah. So I would say that they aged well. As musicians and as a band, they aged well, but the spectacle was gone. Like, what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
There's an element with Dave that's just something.
Because of his nature as a frontman.
Well, it's not tough to explain, but I mean, it's like I would think if you hear it, if you see it, you know it. Like you look at Van Halen in 1982 or 84 even, in 1984, Van Halen could walk onto the Sunset Strip in broad daylight and shoot 4 people, each one of them take a gun and shoot 4 people right in the head in the middle of traffic. They could have gotten away with it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
You know?
Because they were the showman, and that was David Lee Roth as a frontman more than he was a vocalist, and like you said, the spectacle of it, like seeing it and listening to it were two different things.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the third and final guest question comes from Cody Newkirk from the band White Thrash in Pittsburgh, and he had a gear question for you. He wants to know if you consciously favor the bridge pickup because of Van Halen.
I don't know if that's conscientious, but yeah, the bridge pickup is way more important than the neck pickup.
Right, yeah.
That's a really cool question too. I mean, I did spend my formative years as a musician looking at my favorite guitarist whose guitar was completely destroyed, with really no. Well, I don't even know if on the first guitar he had, at one point, the original guitar he had on the first record, he had, it was initially black and white stripe, but then he changed it to the red, the classic, red, white, black stripes.
Yep.
And he had a single coil neck pickup in that one, but I don't know if that was actually wired. I don't know if that was actually just usable or just for cosmetic purposes.
Yeah, it might have just been on the guitar, right?
When he started using Kramer's, he just had, a humbucker in the bridge.
Yep.
Bridge position. So, maybe that is why,
Sure.
But maybe that's why only a lot of people give a shit about the bridge pickup.
Yeah, that was the main thing Cody said, was that he only uses the bridge pickup for anything ever, and it's because of Eddie Van Halen. So that was his guitar question for you.
That's a good question. And subconsciously, that might very well be it.
Right.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Because my favorite guitarist seemingly didn't give a shit about it.
Right. Yeah.
Didn't give a shit about any pickups but the bridge. So.
Yep.
And his guitars sounded great. So
yes.
How can you argue with that?
You can't argue with the recordings and the live. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Right on. Okay. So next up is going to be your favorite. It's like a two-parter. So like your favorite Billboard single by Van Halen, and then your favorite lesser-known track.
All right, so let me just clear that up. So my favorite Van Halen single.
Yeah, your favorite popular song, and then your favorite lesser known.
Essentially.
Yep.
All right. Damn, dude. I think I'm going to narrow it down to 2 right now, and then I'll kind of work it down to 1 from there. I would say if I'm going with singles, it's going to be either Dance the Night Away or Hot for Teacher.
Yeah. Hot for Teacher is a very important song.
Yeah, definitely. It screwed up fantasies for decades.
Oh yeah, I love the video. You posted the video today. I was watching that. I love the video.
Yeah. There was that dude when we were kids that was like 12 that took that situation literally, and the teacher went to prison.
I remember that.
I think, and I love Dancing Right Away, because that to me is like pop music was different back then, to me it seems, and that's like a perfect pop song. But, Hot for Teacher, it's got everything. If you could sum up maybe that whole first era with Dave in one song, that might be the best one to do it. Just because it's got, it's aggressive, lots of, cool guitar work and drum work, and it's got the Dave attitude and Dave persona just to the hilt there, and the video really ties it all together too. I mean, I know that doesn't really have anything to do with the the actual music or the caliber of the actual song, but
it is the idea of the song, though, like the inspired by the song, so I think it's relevant.
Yeah. I think I'm going with Hot for Teacher. I mean, that could change at any point in the next week. I can go back and I can waffle back and forth on that or Dancing Their Way, but Hot for Teacher is just, I mean, it's it's just, there's so much gold there.
It is.
You don't even know where to start mining. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
It's a perfect song.
Yeah, even the talking parts in the beginning, like, are really funny and iconic. Yeah.
So iconic. It's so charismatic. It's, again, that era of that band has yet to be recreated, or probably even smartly not even attempted to be recreated by anyone else. It's just, I don't think it's possible.
Right.
Yeah, so Hot for Teacher.
Mm-hmm. And your favorite lesser-known track?
Favorite lesser-known track? That one's maybe a little more difficult to answer. I am going to say In a Simple Rhyme off of Women and Children First.
Okay.
It's it's a great song. It's not particularly heavy or aggressive, but it's just a great song. And Dave is top of his game, man. It's just it's probably one of their popular songs of that era as well too. But it's just a song that always connected with me.
That's an interesting pick. That's a good pick.
It's very possible you could learn everything you need to know about love in that song. It's possible.
Sure.
I wouldn't recommend only using that song as a reference point.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Probably good to experience it, but yeah, that song is pretty deep, especially from a Dave perspective.
Right on. Yep.
I'll never, the line, "Ain't life grand when you finally hit it." I mean, I think everyone could probably relate to that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think everyone can relate to that for sure.
Oh yeah.
And it just, it's not a song that usually gets brought up a lot, but I think as far as deep cuts go, that's out for now. For conversation's sake, I'll go with that.
Right
in
on.
a simple rhyme.
Cool. Can you think of a single throwaway track on Van Halen 2?
Yes, I can. And it's kind of really, I accept it as part of the record, part of what makes that record what it is. But I never, even when I first got that record when I was 12 or 13, I never got opening the record with the Linda Ronstadt cover. You know, You're No Good. I mean, to me, that's the weakest track on the record. And I don't know if it's because it doesn't fit or if it's because I just think it's not a good song to start a record with.
Right.
You know, like I could never imagine, like for me personally, I could never imagine wanting to open one of my records with someone else's song, unless it was a strictly covers record.
Yes.
Know?
Yeah, that would be different.
Like,
yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that would be different. Like, to me, when I think of Van Halen 2, I think of, they should have opened that record with Light Up the Sky or something like that, you know?
Yep.
Or, I mean, really any other choice, any other song on that record, to me, would have been a better first track on that record than You're No Good.
Yep.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, I don't know that their version is particularly bad. You know, I just think that it's, as far as like the tracking order is concerned,
that's not a choice you would have made. Yeah, I can agree with that for sure.
And
Good.
and even and obviously when you're a kid, you're maybe not as cognizant of song flow as you are when you're older and you've been in bands and you put out records or whatever like we have. I mean, you have to think of things like that when you're putting out a record. But for some reason, even at 12 or 13 years old, that didn't even sit with me back then. And I think that if that occurred to me when I was that young and I knew nothing, I'm going to have to assume that occurred to a lot of other people as well.
Yeah.
But even more so, that's one thing that's definitely stuck with time. I still don't think that was a good idea.
Right, unless it was a cover album, like you said.
But yeah, exactly. But who the fuck am I? I mean, that record still sold really well.
Yeah, it sure did.
I don't think
But that's actually why I asked you that question, because that's a very openly criticized moment in the Van Halen discography. So I wanted to see if you would point that out.
Yeah, I don't think that the sales figures of that record would back up my gripe.
Right. Oh yeah, of course.
I'm sure it's probably sold at least 5 million copies, at least.
Yeah, we could look that up. When I do post this tomorrow, I'll probably include some stats, because with Van Halen, it's all pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, but yet that's the weird thing about them. They have been so successful, and they have sold so many records, and have had a period of time when they were the biggest band probably in the world, or if not the world, then definitely America.
Yes.
And yet there is still a mystique, to me at least.
Yeah.
Because Eddie is almost like this. Obviously, I'm sure some of that's probably due to his health issues, but he's like, they're like this clandestine, hidden operation. You never know what's going on with them. You never know what their intentions are. You never know what they're doing. And you listen to David Lee Roth, it sounds like he doesn't even know what's going on. So it's like there's still a mystique about them, which is, to me, I feel like that's got to be impressive considering how big of a band they've been.
How big they are, how long it's been around, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The longevity of it, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so thinking about the beginning of Women and Children first. Were you ever inspired to fuck with a Wurlitzer? Have you ever fucked with a Wurlitzer, like, because of Eddie Van Halen, or just in general, or have you ever incorporated something like that into one of your songs, like, in a band you've been in, or anything like that?
No, definitely not. Well, first of all, I could bang on a piano enough to, if you have any knowledge of an instrument,
Sure.
you know where the notes are, you know where to find them. I could bang around on a piano long enough to create something listenable or vaguely listenable eventually. But as far as, taking a electric piano and plowing it through a Marshall stack, I've never really felt the need to explore that, just because I feel like it's been done perfectly by John Lord, in Deep Purple, and
Sure.
by Eddie Van Halen, and
Sure.
I see no reason to fuck with that.
Right.
I could barely handle guitar.
Sure. Sure.
So yeah. No, I've never felt the need to chase that creative path.
Right.
But to me, honestly, that was my first knowledge of that being a thing. Like, I didn't know that, John Lord from Deep Purple was doing that before that.
Right, you heard it on Women and Children first, yeah.
Yeah, that was my introduction to that, which is, to me, it was super groundbreaking, because when you hear "And the Cradle Will Rock," on the radio, you're probably, you're just listening to it, and you don't really notice until you put headphones on, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's not a guitar.
That's not a guitar, yeah.
Clearly a piano, just distorted.
Yep.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but it's cool, though,
Yep.
That's cool.
Okay, so choose one, Unchained or So This Is Love.
Unchained.
Unchained? Like, no hesitation.
No hesitation. That's one of the toughest rock songs ever written.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course.
Yeah, it's just such a super tough song. It's excellent.
Even with taking into account all the music that has come out since then, like, that song still holds up for sure.
Mm-hmm. And even going back to the whole drop tuning thing, it's even a little heavier.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the Unchained without even a second thought.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep. Okay, so if Jump had never been written or recorded, name another song on 1984 that... Actually, I'm kind of regretting this question, because I feel like Panama is like the obvious answer. Alright, so how about this? So, let's pretend that the big singles on 1984 were never written or recorded. Like, pick a lesser-known track on 1984 to be like a huge international single.
Alright, so we're cutting off Jump and Hot for Teacher. So, what does that leave us with? Oh, I'll Wait was pretty big too. Alright, so we're getting rid of 3 songs right there.
Yep.
Oh, and Panama too.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like, I stopped myself, and I was like, that's like the obvious answer. But let's get rid of all the well-known tracks.
All those songs. Yeah, that's the problem. Is that, like, half that record was like a hit single.
No. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I would say, obviously songs like I think even Drop Dead Legs was a single too. House of Pain is definitely the heaviest song on that record. But that's funny, because that song was actually left over from a demo that they did before the first record even came out. So House of Pain came out. That song was already, 7 or 8 years old. It just never made it onto a record until that one. But as far as, like, if I'm like an A&R guy, or like I'm a record label dude, and I'm looking at that record and I'm eliminating all the other songs that have already been ginormous hits, I would have to say I would probably go with Top Jimmy.
Yep.
Top Jimmy's, it's got the, it's a catchy song. It's kind of quick, and it's got the Dave personality going on. I would go with Top Jimmy.
Yeah, strong pick. Okay, so this next one, you kind of answered it during the first 45 minutes of the episode, which we lost. But I'll just I didn't mean to start talking about this, but we kind of did. So I'll just ask you one more time, because I don't think you knew about this right away. But what's your opinion on Warner Brothers trying to step in to name the band Van Hagar during the Sammy years?
I mean, I feel like that they had to have been in panic mode at that point.
Sure.
Because,
yep.
You're not looking to have a band make a switch in that position and not only just at that position, but at a position that is, who at that point is filled by, maybe one of the 5 biggest rock frontmen in the world at that point, and he was so much more than just a singer. He was a persona, which is almost like invaluable. You can't even put a dollar amount on that, And so I don't think it was. I think it was good that they didn't, because again, it's all it is just playing up or playing into the derisiveness and the mockery of the term. And I think it was good to avoid that.
Yep.
And especially because you still have 2 Van Halens in the band.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
I think that was the wise move to just continue on as Van Halen. Clearly, even even without the benefit of hindsight, which proves that keeping the name was the right move, I would still say even at that time you can't. There's still a level of rebuilding if you change the moniker.
Yep.
You still do have to.
You have to rebrand, and someone like Eddie Van Halen shouldn't have to rebrand, right?
Exactly, especially not at that point, and there is an element of explanation in, well, what is Van Hagar? I know Van Halen, okay, or then you have to take a second to explain it, If
yep.
And the less time you have to explain something, the better off it is. And if you don't change the name, you don't have to explain anything.
Right.
It's still Van Halen, just with a different singer.
Yep.
Who, by the way, you already know of because he's already kind of successful as a solo guy. So it's
Yep.
That was the right move to just keep the name as is.
Sure. Okay, so many critics have said that OU812 sounded uninspired. Do you agree that it's... I mean, you kind of already answered this, but, like, specifically uninspired, does it sound that way to you?
I don't know if it's uninspired, but I think it's definitely their lamest record. And I hate to even use that word, but it's just like, it is the... I think... I mean, it's just so laid back, compared to probably everything. Even 5150 has, some more aggressive moments, than OU812.
Yep.
And I just think that in that era, that was just, I mean, it's almost like adult contemporary rock, which, that's, no one wants that.
Right. Yep.
That's, although I do love When It's Love. I mean, we've discussed my proclivities for, absolute love of power ballads. Which
yes.
That's one of the
and
best
that is
ones
most
ever.
certainly that. It does have that going for it.
Yeah. I would say it's probably just, uninspired. I don't know about that, but just uninteresting. Yeah,
Sure.
It's probably the record they've done that carries the least amount of interest for me.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Um. So we established early on that you are more of a Roth fan, but during the time period of the band, both Roth and Hagar have had comebacks with the band.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, which comeback were you more excited about? Probably Roth, right?
You know what? Was yeah, it was definitely the more exciting of the two, but it was kind of immediately leveled off and tempered by the lack of Michael Anthony.
Yep.
You know, it wasn't. It was like, yeah, that was huge to have Dave back, but it's like, okay, to me, it was that whole lineup which had something for me at least.
Yep.
And I don't think I'm the only one who feels that way.
Sure.
You know, I don't think my opinion on that is unique at all. You know, I think anyone who is a diehard fan of that era of the band wants to picture them all together for all time.
Yep.
You know, same thing with, you know, the last Sabbath lineup. You know, they didn't have Bill Ward on drums. So yeah, it's cool that you have, you know, 3 core members, but you want to remember them as those 4 guys forever. And for me,
That's true.
with Van
That's
Halen,
true,
with
yeah.
that era, that's how I want to remember it as well too. And so yeah, to me, it was awesome that Dave was coming back, but it was bittersweet because it wasn't. I don't think it was what anyone really wanted. You know, it was. You know what it is? It was an A minus.
Yep. Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's cool.
That's a perfect analogy for that, actually, yeah.
You know, it was an A minus. I mean, it's really, really cool. It's awesome, but it's not the best that it could be.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how I look at essentially the last lineup of Van Halen. It's an A minus. You know.
Yep. Yeah. We touched on this with the bridge pickup thing earlier, but getting more in depth about gear, just in general, like the music equipment that you own that was specifically inspired by Van Halen.
Well,
aside from the guitar, like just the fact that you play guitar, but
yeah. Well, I own a 5150 block letter, and I own a 5153 from the last handful of years. I think that's made by Fender now. So
yeah.
I have two. I got two EVH heads, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, right on.
And to me, it's just they're just. And there's a reason why they're so popular. There's a reason why that, you know, predominantly hard rock and metal guitarists use those amps. Is because Eddie was the one who really, truly pioneered that over-the-top, super high gain tone and style that was really kind of co-opted by metal, you know, and pushed further and further. And those 5150 heads, there's very little you need to do to make it sound awesome. I mean, you could be a novice and probably dial up a totally raging tone on that thing. Now, obviously, with maybe time and knowledge, you learn that, okay, maybe if you EQ it a little bit, you can get something even better and even get a little more extra bite out of it, which is what I do personally. Just the sound alone, just directly into the head of the 5150, it's cool, but I like to run an equalizer through it just to kind of maybe balance out some of the tones and then kind of, you know, even get a little extra drive out of it, push those tubes a little bit. So, I mean, if you're not particular, well, I shouldn't even say that. You can plug directly into 5150 and get some serious crunch. But
yes.
in order for me to get something that's ideal to what I like, I found if you just get an EQ, like even one of those Boss equalizers,
Yep.
You could just plug it in and you just kind of round out that sound a little bit, sharpen it up a little bit, tighten it up, and it's even more lethal. But yeah, I mean, for rock and metal playing, I mean, you're hard pressed to find a better head than that.
Then yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the very beginning, like I said, we lost the first 45 minutes. In the beginning, I asked you about the beginning of your musical journey, and you said that Van Halen is more or less responsible for you being a guitar player. So I guess that's kind of how I want to round this out, because we did lose those talking points. Like, I guess my question for you would be, like, do you see yourself still being a guitar player if Van Halen had never existed, the band or the guitarist? Is there anyone else you may have who does exist or has existed that is prevalent in metal or rock guitar playing that you may or may not have latched onto when you were younger, if not Van Halen, if there were never a Van Halen?
Man, that's kind of tough to say, because Eddie and Van Halen, they were like the gateway drug.
Yep.
Sure. They were the path that, and that really led to everything else for me musically that came after that. So it's like, if you get rid of the doorway, I guess if you get rid of the doorway, you can't get in. So
yeah.
It's like, but I mean, there's so many great guitarists and so many great players out there. You never want to say never.
Sure.
I could never, well, like I just said, can't say never, but I would never want to say that it wouldn't have happened had I not found him or the band. But I will say that I can't imagine my journey without it.
Right.
Yeah. Would I have found the guitar? Possibly. Would I be a different type of guitarist? Would I be in a
You might be a different person.
Type of music?
You might be a different person.
All I know is that, at the end of the day, Van Halen won. I mean, without that record.
That's the true testament to how important he was and continues to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, again, I don't know that I wouldn't have ever picked up a guitar, but I just can't imagine everything that came after me finding that happen. It's really difficult to imagine it without it. I mean, again, it's...
Yep.
Van Halen 1 is a record that's so important to me, and although like I know how to play more Iron Maiden songs,
sure,
than Van Halen songs,
sure,
like compositionally and stylistically, do I have much more in common as a player with Iron Maiden than I do Eddie Van Halen? Absolutely, for sure. 100% across the board.
But Van Halen came first. Van Halen was your gateway to Iron Maiden.
Without that, do I get to Maiden?
Exactly.
I can't say no. But I can say I don't know.
Yep. Right.
Van Halen. I mean, it was. I guess I have it on vinyl. I have it on cassette. I have it on CD.
Yep.
You know,
Such an important album.
It's the only record I have that I own on those three formats, all those formats.
Yep.
You know, it just brings up so many, even beyond music, it brings up so many memories for me, so many things. Like, you know, it's really tough to imagine. You know, obviously, you know, a lot of my journey in life was kind of shaped by my experience as a musician, just because, you know, I'm lucky enough to have been fairly well traveled because of music.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
I'm lucky enough to have gotten to a level to where I could be in a band or wanted to be in a band that was able to travel playing music. And, you know, obviously, that's the value of that, even beyond playing music, the value of that in just life in general is just,
that's
you
huge.
You can't even put an amount on it.
That's huge. That's everything. It's everything.
It all stems from Van Halen 1.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I only, for years, I only had it on cassette and CD. And I actually had the vinyl that was given to me as a gift, like last year, you know, for Christmas. And it was just like, I was emotional getting it, you know?
Yeah.
It was like, you know, obviously, you know, these are formats to where this record is still readily available, you know?
Yeah.
But it was just the fact that, you know, there I was, like, it was almost like I was holding the record, and I was just like, it was almost like 2.5 decades of memories just all slammed right through my head at once.
Yes.
And it all stems from this record. You know, it's like I was looking at, you know, the past 2.5 decades of my life in my hand when, you know, I was handed this record.
Yeah. It might be the focal point for your life, for your existence. Who is Greg?
It's a moment that changed probably the entire trajectory or whatever of my life.
Yep.
You know, that's a fucking damn good question though. But I don't know if it gets to your Iron Maidens and your Megadeths and your Slayers and then your, you know, Deaths or your Cannibal Corpses or your Napalm Deaths or your Carcasses after that. You know, who knows? Who the fuck knows? I have no idea. But because I can't conclusively answer that, because I can't conclusively imagine my life without that.
Yeah, I guess that was the point of the question, was to gauge its Van Halen's emotional significance to you, like beyond guitar playing, but you know, you as a human being, because the two worlds are intertwined.
I knew it meant a lot to me, but I don't know if I truly grasped how much it totally meant until I reacted the way I did when I got Van Halen 1 on vinyl. You know? Like, it was like a moving experience for me. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
And again, I don't want to, make it seem like I was not self-aware enough of that band's influence or importance on my life, because I absolutely was. You know, if you had asked me this question a year ago before I got this record on vinyl, I would have had the same answer. I still wouldn't be able to imagine, B, C, D, and E, coming without A.
Without A,
you know
yeah.
What I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so it's like, but I, what really reinforced that was when I got that record on vinyl. Like, that was just like, it was like, well, this really is like, it's like, it's the cradle.
Yeah.
No pun intended, and the cradle will rock. You know, like that's this band. And although that's not even the first Van Halen record I owned, that is the record that really kind of, you know, set me on my way.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. It's not always the first one you hear, but it's
no.
you eventually get there. You eventually get there with a band or an album.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shit, yeah, dude.
Well, I cannot think of a better way to end this episode.
That's a good place for it.
Yeah. All right. So I will be filling in those missing 45 minutes in my own way, and I will get this to you tomorrow.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Have a good night, sir.
You as well, sir. Catch ya.
Thank you.
First.